Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Joann, you were here early. You were making up for last week.
That's right.
I
was excited.
Yeah.
I like being on time.
You're always on time. That was the one time, and you threw yourself under the bus, which was really funny. So I hope everybody's doing awesome today. By the way, let us know if you have any issues hearing us. I didn't adjust the volume, so hopefully we're okay. But I'm whooped. You were just asking me, how was your weekend?
Yeah.
And I was like, I was going to talk about Saturday anyway. So It was a busy week, but Saturday was an awesome way to end it. We did our Project Linus. For those of you that don't follow us, we do a Sewing for Charity party every 2 months, and this was our first one of this year.
And so
it was awesome.
So did you do pillowcases, or what did you do?
No. We made quilts.
You made
quilts. Project Linus, yeah, we took panels. Actually, they provided. Good morning. Oh, I need to get this up so I can see who's talking to us. They provided kits this time, which was awesome. Dana and her crew, they were great. But we basically added borders to panels because we wanted to make volume. And they finished them here. We quilted them, and then Dana was putting on the binding. I mean, we were doing from start to finish. Well, from almost start to finish. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great.
It was, and so we did it once before. Last year we did Project Linus, and we did, I think, we ended up doing strips. Well, we learned that took a long time, and so instead of just making a ton of quilts, we ended up spending most of the day cutting. And we were like, okay, there's easier, because the point was to get quilts finished. Right. So, and we love Project Linus, and we're a drop off for Project Linus, so people can always drop off quilts. But I love doing the sewing in the store. So it was awesome.
I think that's one of the things I really appreciate about this store is that you are so conscious of doing that quilting for others, and it just seems like every month there's a different project or something going on that's kind of giving back to the community, and I really appreciate that.
I mean, I try. We're in a position where, and I always say an army of sewers, but it's true.
Absolutely.
My dad, who is a hospice chaplain at hospice, he's like, hey, do you know anybody that can make memory bears? I'm like, I bet I do.
Yeah, I bet you do.
And it's like I'm in a position, so shame on those people not doing it.
It's awesome.
But we have fun, and honestly, it's a cool group. We gave away a sewing machine. Bonnie won, I don't know who's on there. I got to get this set up. Bonnie won a sewing machine, which is really cool. All right, why are we not live here? There we are. So it was awesome. And it was the week after the shop hop. There we go. Sorry, technical difficulties. Okay, good morning, Annette. Good morning, Maria. Good morning, Marcia. Good morning, Char. Good morning, Josh and Joann. I agree with you, Joann. Josh is great with the... Okay, I can't read a compliment to myself. Thanks, Char. Okay, awesome. So, shop hop, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but there's a lot of hype.
Yes, there is.
I am kind of blown away with the amount of excitement. I mean, I was excited for it, but I didn't realize that we were going to sell out of magazines, and they had to print more so we're getting more magazines because most shops are out. I think we have a few left. The fabric, a lot of shops are completely out of the fabric. So let me back up just in case you didn't know. All Florida Shop Hop, March 1st through April 30th, I believe. It should say on there, and I should know. It's 2 months. And there's 60 shops, and so the fabric is available for pre-order, so you can purchase it. You just can't get it until March 1st. And there are a lot of shops that are completely sold out of the fabric. We luckily still have a little bit left, but if you want some of the fabric, I do recommend giving us a call or coming in quickly because it's going to be gone. And when it's gone, it's gone. They talked about they were going to reprint more fabric. Well, that's not a overnight thing, so you wouldn't get it until like May. Yeah. And I was like, well, that doesn't help people for the
shop hop.
So
and then in addition to the fabric that you can pre-purchase now, they have the little squares. Every shop has a little square that you can collect to add on to your quilt. And
yeah, I didn't bring those. I'll show those next time, but it's pretty cool. So you'll collect the square from each shop you go to, and then there's the whole collection of fabric and there's a ton of samples out there that are really cool to see what people are doing. Ours is in the works.
And the magazine, if you were able to purchase one of the magazines, it has I think it said seven sample quilts of how different people have used the fabric.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a good magazine, even if you don't. Honestly, I know that there's people that are purchasing it who aren't planning on going on the shop hop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just because it's a good magazine.
Okay. Yes, it has lots of fun things in it.
Yeah, but you should go on the shop hop, and they've broken it down into regions, so you don't have to do all 60. You don't have to go to Key West. I think there's 9 in our region. So, and if you finish all of those 9, that's what puts you in the running for the cool giveaways. Yeah. So, like we're giving away a sewing machine and a beginner quilt kit for I think for the kids.
Cool.
Because the kids cannot pay for a ticket in Florida. That's gambling.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
But
always
the
forget
kids
that.
are welcome. Please bring the kids. Just make sure that there's a separate little stamp for them. So. We don't want to get in trouble for letting kids gamble.
No gambling.
Good morning, Tracy and Marcia. Louisville sure misses you. I miss Louisville. I do. I follow you guys all the time. It's awesome to see what you're doing. Okay, so Shop Hop, excited about that. Classes, we got a ton of classes going on. Pretty much every day of the week. And we'll get into your class. This will be a perfect segue, if you don't mind. But Edge to Edge, Quilting in the Hoop I think has 1 spot left, and that's on February the 2nd. We get a lot of people calling and asking about how do I use my sewing machine. It was handed down to me, or I just bought a new one. Beginner sewers, which is really exciting because we need a new, we need
a
to
new crop.
Create more. That's right, a new crop. I like that. So we decided, Karen, who's been awesome and just has volunteered to take this and run with it. Every single month, we're going to offer a beginner sewing class.
Oh, cool.
Which I'm excited about. I'm trying to figure out how to do a beginner quilting class more often. That's in the works because there's more to that than beginner sewing.
So the beginner sewing is mainly learning how to use your machine and make a small project, or
from the from the beginning. So this is a bobbin. This is how you thread your machine. This is straight stitch. Literally learning your machine, and then I think they make a pillowcase. And it's mainly just so they can actually sew. Yeah. And you learn some techniques, and then there's actually a part 2 to that if they want to continue on that route where they do a drawstring bag. So it's pretty cool. I get a lot of people going, ooh, I see like the free motion class. So we have a free motion class, which I believe is sold out, but we're going to offer that again because obviously if it sells out, high demand. But people see it, they go, I'd love to do that, but I just don't know how to use my machine. And it's like, okay, baby steps.
All right, let's start at the beginning.
So take the Sewing 101 and then get comfortable, and then we kind of, because we'd love to say, sure, but it's not fair for everybody else in the class.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that because that is something that I've wanted to do consistently. And we've done a lot of one-on-ones, but there's enough people moving to Palm Coast alone that we've got some new sewers.
That's right.
Yeah. Virtual class on February the 9th. Keyword virtual. I have people calling, what time is the class on the 9th? So we do, I think every quarterly, we do a virtual dime event or class, excuse me. It's free, but you do have to register if you want to watch it. Now you have, I should have looked. Usually it's 48 hours to watch it afterwards. So I tell people if you can't watch it, okay, so it's on February the 9th at 12 o'clock Eastern time. And it's 12 to 1:30. If you can't be there to watch it during that exact live time, register because you can go back and watch it. But you can't register after it's started.
Okay. So when you say virtual, is there any interaction between the person watching and the person teaching, or is it all demonstration pretty much?
No. And so that's the perk of watching it live is you can ask questions, and there's a monitor sitting there watching and reading, and So you can get your questions answered.
Okay.
That's the only downfall if you're going back and watching it, obviously.
Hopefully somebody else has asked your question.
Good point. Or just call us. I mean, but it's a lot of really cool information. If you haven't watched any of the Dime events that we've done, it's a lot of information in a short amount of time, but it's really cool. It'll kind of get your brain going, and they always give you good tips on which tool makes the job easier. So, and Dime's awesome, and we've been getting a lot of embroidery excitement here in the shop, which is cool. Our Kimberbell Club is growing, and let's see, the quilting in the hoop, and we're gonna start doing embroidering on T-shirts because people are asking. So all sorts of fun stuff.
It's amazing to me how much the embroidery thing has really taken hold. I don't know whether that's just this area or whether it's nationwide or what, but it's just like, that's what everybody seems to want to do.
Well, I saw a huge jump when the pandemic hit because everybody was like, I'm stuck at home, I need to make money. So people were literally buying machines and trying to make money on Etsy.
Oh, of course.
And which was awesome. Kudos. And so the downfall there is we couldn't give in-store education. So now I find a lot of people who say, I bought this, it was a pandemic purchase, and I gave up on it because it's a lot of work.
Yes, it is.
But they still want to maybe make something for the family, like so that you can see them, okay, I'm going to break this back out, but I need to learn how to use it, which is awesome. So, and we just have people who have been in the shop and have been sewing for a while and want to try something new. Embroidery is fun. I love embroidery because you push a button and it makes you look like you're super skilled.
Yeah, it's as you get more advanced, I know, and you come into the shop. I know Maria has done some really incredible things, and so you have lots of things to see, and it's a great shop to be able to come and get good advice from too.
Yeah, we're just getting started with the embroidery, but let's jump back to quilting. So the classes. So we've got all sorts of classes. Go to cutupandsew.com. We can't sit here and list them all because I really have packed the calendar with as much as possible. And I'm trying not to be too repetitive unless it's a class that like the Sewing 101. I want to try new things. But quilting and this group that you've kind of started has been awesome.
It's been a fun group, that's for sure.
So what's next on the plate? Is that a good segue for you?
Sure.
Okay.
So the month of February is kind of taken up with some interesting things. Oh, here it is. So our final class for this particular quilt right here is this coming Friday. And that has been a great class to be part of. I'm hoping a couple of the students will let me use their quilts next Monday to bring them in and kind of show everybody what the class has done. And
I'm sure they will.
Taking this quilt here and doing their own thing with it and making it their own quilt. And so it's been really neat seeing all those people not only come up with their own designs and their own quilts, but also just really extending their talents as quilters as well. So that's our final class this Friday. Next Friday, we're not going to be here. The Friday after that, and you're welcome to join us. We're going to do a day of finishing your quilt. So if you have a quilt that you have questions about, you're just at a point where you need help finishing it or you need encouragement finishing it, bring it in for that Friday. And so that is Friday the 17th.
So that's kind of like an open sew, but with you're here for education and
exactly.
Okay.
So if you just need a quilt to finish and you need help doing that, that's a great day to come. The week after that, which is February 24th, is the Daytona Quilt Show, and I think we're closed that day.
Yeah, so just think that works as well. So the 22nd through the 25th is the Daytona Show, and we will be closed here in the shop. I was trying to figure out how we could be open, and we just can't do it. We need all hands on deck, and so we're gonna be open that Monday and Tuesday, but then Wednesday through Saturday we are gonna be closed. And I'll post that on the calendar, the website today.
Yeah, and it sounds like Daytona is going to be really good this year. I'm certainly hoping for that.
Yeah, you guys have to come and say hello. We've got a couple of booths, and we're going to be excited. So stop by and say hello for sure.
For sure. Then March 3rd, the Friday class will start this quilt, and this is not a particularly hard quilt to do. It's made up of 4 patches, like here. This this is a block. This is one block. It has a 4-patch here, a 4-patch here, and then 2 half-square triangles. It's a traditional pattern, which is called Jacob's ladder. And then it has the border around it, which is pretty much 4 patches put together. And so anyway, that quilt will start on March 3rd and go through the month of March. And the class is pretty excited about it. This is a fabric that, a pattern that I started several years ago. I can't even begin to tell you how many years ago. And it was one of the ones that I pulled out to finish when I got here to Florida, because that was one of my goals, is to finish all the quilts I started in California.
Sweet.
So,
I'm not to interrupt. I'm sorry, but I'm just looking at the camera because up close, I see one thing, but when I see it from a distance in our camera over here, I can really see these pop out and look totally different. It's a really cool looking quilt.
yeah, and it
Jacob's ladder, is that what you said?
Jacob's ladder, yes. And so it's a fun quilt to make. It's you'll learn how to put it together, but you'll have more fun just in the class, enjoying the class and the people in it. So if you're interested in joining that class, we'd be glad to have you.
Awesome. Yeah, and you can register on the website. I'll have to put this one up. It's not up there yet. But give us a call if you have any questions. Sometimes I know if it's a multi-session class, a lot of people have questions. Feel free to call us anytime. We can help you. We can even sign you up over the phone if you don't like doing it on the website.
Well, that's nice, because I hate using the website.
I know, you're not alone.
I know I'm not. I represent a lot of people out there.
You do. Okay, so first of all, good morning, Joann. Good morning, Dot. Hey, Christy, good morning. Dory, good morning. Fantastic. I hate it if I don't say good morning to people.
Yeah, I'm always wondering who's out there watching.
Oh, hold on. So before we get into your, that would have been a better segue probably.
That's
but
okay.
I notion of the day, when we started this, I think 10 episodes ago, but I'm not 100% sure. I put TBD today.
A little over a month or two.
I know. The last episode, I was super confident. I was like, episode 9. And then I started going, I don't know if there's 9. But we started off, we were going to do a notion of the day every single episode. And then maybe we were going to give something away. And I think I fell off of that a couple times. But I want to get back on it. So I was walking around this morning looking at the wall of notions, which, by the way, is lacking because the shop hop cleaned us out. Thanks, guys. That's bittersweet because now I got to buy a bunch of stuff. But we had a bunch of rotary cutters that I had never really paid any attention to. This is a 18 millimeter. And what grabbed my attention was the way that in the picture she was holding it like a pencil. Like a pen, and that started thinking, when I'm doing like collage quilts and these little intricate cuts, this to me seems like a no-brainer. Do you use these?
Not on collages, but on, if you're doing any kind of curve piecing, or it's very nice for curve piecing because it just makes that curve a little bit easier to maneuver around.
Well, right. Well,
and the larger.
And I know we use the K. Buckley scissors for our collage quilting because honestly, that you're cutting through the layers. But a lot of times I find myself going back and I'm trying to trim little bits. I think this would be easier. Yeah. Personally. So anyway, 18 millimeter. We got a ton of rotary cutters, but most people come in for the 45. Some for the 60. I guess for the thicker fabric. But the 45s are like by a large margin the most sold, the most popular. And we've got the Martelli and we've got the Olfa, good, better, and best, basically. But these have been sitting there, and I don't know how many of you guys have actually played with these or knew about these. So I thought I'd grab these out, or grab one of these. So that's the notion of the day. Here in a minute, I'm going to figure out how to give this away. Okay.
And also, if you happen to be one of those people that uses your rotary cutter for a seam ripper, this is a great one to use. It's a little bit easier to hold in your hand and to maneuver around a seam that you're trying to cut away.
You use a rotary cutter for a seam? Hold on, that doesn't seem safe.
You know, the funny thing is when I use a seam ripper, I always rip the fabric. And when I use this, I never do. And
each to his or her own,
that's
right?
right. That's right.
Everybody's got their own thing. So as long as you're not ripping the fabric, that's all that matters. Okay, cool. So, hey, good morning, Pamela. So, all right. We do have these in the shop, but pay attention because I'm going to give one away here once I figure out how to do that.
Okay.
That's a spontaneous thing. So, tips and tricks. What do we got?
Okay, so for today, when I finished this quilt, I had a ton of fabric left because I tend to overbuy anyway. And I was trying to figure out what to do with it. And there are essentially 3 or 4 different things you can do with your fabric that you have left over after you finish a quilt. You can throw it all in a box and in your scrap box, which for me has become one of those tubs. It's about this size.
Scrap room.
Or you can bundle it up and send it to a guild or to some place that will take it. And guilds do amazing things with scraps. You can just kind of refile it in your fabric collection. Or you can start looking at it and thinking, is there another quilt I can make out of this? Maybe I can make it to donate, or maybe I can make just a nice little quilt, a little lap quilt or something.
Like a table runner.
Or a table runner.
Something smaller,
there's
right?
all kinds of things you can do. And a lot of designers out there actually have systems to, how to file your fabric away, like Bonnie Hunter, who's always a favorite of mine. She has a whole system of how you cut up your fabric and store it. So like I do have boxes at home that have 2.5-inch squares because that's something I use a lot of. And I have one box for the white or background kind of squares, and I have one for blue and one for black and one for red because those are the most common things I have. But what I found about all of those systems that the different designers put out is their system is designed to suit their way of sewing, and not everybody sews in the same way. So it's always important for you to find a system that works for you. But in this particular case, I had a bunch of squares, and the 2.5-inch squares, and I had a lot of fabrics. I had some strips left over and some yardage, and so I thought this is a perfect one to make another quilt out of. So I looked at this quilt, and there's a lot of 2.5-inch squares in there, so I thought, I think I will just remake this one.
Oh, right.
So I set them all up on a board so I could see what I had. And the first thing I started doing was I started making little 2 patches where there is a light and a dark. And one of the things that you can do is if you collect 2.5-inch squares, and you can start putting them together as 2 patches, as leaders and enders. So if you have one of those machines that when you start sewing a seam and it kind of mashes down and creates this little rat's nest underneath, the best way to avoid that is to have a little leader that goes with it.
Get a new machine.
Or get a new machine.
Sorry.
But most of them do that, I'm
I know.
afraid. So anyway, what you can do is you can put your fabric, you can have your fabric right next to you by your machine. And when you start, before you start, as you're finishing a seam, you put one of your 2 patches under there and sew it. And then, and that kind of finishes off that seam for you. You leave it under your machine, cut away what you're working on, and then that actually starts the next piece that you're working on. And then at the end, you do another one. And then after a while, you have this whole little set of 2 patches. And then you can start putting those together as 4 patches. And those 4 patches can make their way into another quilt of some sort. One of the things that I used to do was whenever I finished a quilt, I would take my leftovers, and I had a block that I liked. It was a star, and I would make as many stars as I could out of whatever was left over. And eventually that became a scrap quilt. And it was kind of a fun way of getting rid of fabric. But this is one of the things that I do pretty frequently is I take what I have left over, I cut it up, and these fabrics will sit right by my machine. And I'm not necessarily working on this as a quilt right now. I'm just making the pieces to it so that when I decide I'm ready to make that quilt, they're all ready to go together.
You're preparing.
Uh-huh.
I love it. These also go together, obviously, really, really well.
With that,
Yeah.
because that's where the fabric came from.
Yeah.
And
that's a good idea. I can't tell you how many times after a class in here we've started a little scrap bin, and that gets full fast,
very quickly. Yes,
like super fast. And I know we have a lot of people in here using it, but I mean, really fast.
Well, I think it's overwhelming when you have so many scraps, and if you happen to be like me, where you have a tendency to overbuy a little bit. If the pattern says, well, you need 2 yards, you think, well, I probably need to get 2.5, maybe 3, in case I make a mistake or the pattern's wrong or, whatever. I think there's a real tendency for overbuying. And you need to have a plan for what you're going to do with that fabric. Because honest to goodness, as much as I like this and as pretty as it is, in another 2 years, there's going to be something to replace it. And I'm going to like that just as much as I like this. And I'm going to be stuck with this unless I get rid of it.
True. Okay, hold on. Keep that thought about holding on to this fabric in particular, because I got a perfect segue for that. Okay. But I'm going to give this to the first person. Good morning, Laura. Joann is dangerous, Shar. She said you were dangerous. And then someone else said, I love your borders. But I'm going to give this away to the first person that in the comments can tell me when our next virtual dime event is happening. The next virtual dime event that we spoke about earlier in the show will be the first person to comment the correct date will win this. Okay. You don't have to chop up Tula pink fabric. Keep it for a rainy day, because I can't tell you a day goes by that I've got my stash over there that people want to come in and buy that.
I'm sure
this stuff's going to be worth, this is retirement plan right here. So maybe all fabric except for Tula pink fabric. Oh, look at Shar coming in strong and fast. Yep. Shar, you got it. But
it's the second time you've won something.
Hey, good for you. Oh, Joann, you were really right behind close. I might have a little something for you too. We'll see. But all right, awesome. Thanks for playing. I mean, this is I don't know how big these are, but this doesn't seem like scraps. Like, these are pretty big cuts, aren't they?
There's not that much of the white.
So at what point do you call it a scrap and you start cutting it down?
These are all things that I would cut down, easily cut down.
So less, like smaller than a fat quarter?
Yes.
Okay.
And I do have, my system for separating scraps is, I actually have a friend who loves scraps. And so I have a little bag that I keep, and I put the smaller pieces in there for her, and I send it to her. Then anything that is between, maybe just under a quarter of a yard, a little bit smaller than a fat quarter, something that you can fold. Like I can fold this, and that would go in a bin that I have that's maybe 1/8 of a yard.
Right, okay.
Cuts, something like that. So they're usable, but there's not a lot of them. And then I have the 2.5-inch square boxes. And then typically for these, I would probably put them back into my fabric. But I'm just, like I said, I'm afraid it's not going to be. It's going to be replaced by something else that I love just as much in a couple of years.
But again, if it's Tula pink, hang on to it. You don't have to chop it all up. Trust me, we have a Tula pink club going on, and actually that's something I should have mentioned during the classes. So our next meeting is this Saturday. It's totally free, and we just yap about Tula and all things Tula. And Tony Carringer, who you guys have met on here, brought in, I'd say, I didn't ask her, but it felt like it was a fat quarter, maybe a little bit more, but you know, it was an old piece of Tula. It was worth, you know, $300.
I don't have any.
Now she's a Tula diehard, so I don't think she's ever going to sell that. You know, in fact, I just purchased a piece of, I think it was a half of a yard on eBay because I loved this Tula that I saw and I'd never seen it for $15, which was a really good deal. But there's people, you know, so hang on to your Tula is all I'm saying, and come to Tula Club.
And come to Tula Club so you know how to use it.
That's exactly right.
But and anyway, the Tula fabric does make just, I mean, you can tell by looking at this one. This is just a very happy quilt and very cheerful, and that's what her quilts are. Is they're just cheerful quilts.
Well, I mean, yes. And some people, the whole, I think, part of Tula Club that I love is everybody knows I love Tula and people love Tula and it's pretty, and yet, but a lot of people go, it's really pretty, I don't know what to do with it. And we talked about this. And so that's really what I think is going to be fun, is to see people go,
there's something, and there's how it works together.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. And but if it's not Tula pink, now you know what to do with all your scraps. You don't have to, I mean, donating them is awesome. I'm not saying don't donate them. And we accept donations all the time, and they'll make like really like scraps you can't do anything with, smaller than this. They make into pet beds. You know, there's all sorts of stuff. So.
There is.
But this is good. This is helpful, especially for all you quilters out there who are in the exact same position as Joann. Yeah. On a constant basis.
Yeah, and you know, it's just you don't want your fabric to. You don't want to become a slave to your fabric. You want your fabric to bring joy to your life. And if you just have tons and tons of scraps that are overpowering you, you need to be able to control them, or they just overwhelm you, and it just doesn't feel good. It makes quilting not quite so fun.
That's true. Char said, give it to Joann. That's really nice of you. Quilting Jeannie, good morning. Irene, hey, good morning. Christy, you said, sorry I missed the start of today's session. Did you mention the Super Bowl? No, I did not. Okay, so what's the date? Christy, what's the date? Christy, this was her brainchild, came up with a little fun event called the Super Bowl.
Oh,
did you get the play on words?
I get it.
Okay.
It took a minute.
I think her pitch is this, and Christy, forgive me if I butcher this, but you've heard of the Super Bowl, probably the Puppy Bowl, but now there's the Super Bowl.
I love it.
How was that delivery?
Great idea, Christy.
Okay, February the 12th. So it is a Sunday, and we're normally closed on Sundays, but Christy is going to come and hang out, and it is from, I believe, 10 to 4. It's an all-day event. We're just doing $5. We'll have... It is a potluck / sewing party. So bring whatever you want to work on. We'll turn on the lights and give you some discounts and all that stuff. So the store will be open for you. But the whole point is to get together. I think she kept calling them football widows.
Can't believe you don't want to stick around and watch the commercials.
Well, technically, if it ends at 4, then you got time to go home. And right, so... it should be fun. Yeah, okay, the 12th, and then, hey, Shar, thanks. Hey, good morning, Linda. So the Super Bowl, you'll see some posts coming out on that very soon. I created a flyer for it, and so I was going to iron out the details, and we'll get that on the calendar.
Well, that's a fun idea.
Yeah, Christy, that was all hers. I said, absolutely. If you host it, I'll promote it. Sundays are tough for me, so but that's gonna be fun. So okay, I think that's it.
Okay.
We ended on a good note. Super Bowl. We gave this away. Check mark. Check. We're good.
We're good. We've done it.
We've done it. All right. Well, you guys have an amazing day. Make sure I'm not missing anybody. Shar sends some hearts. Hearts back to you. Thanks for always being involved. Good morning, Kay. You're just in time for us to leave. But you can go back and watch it from the beginning. And honestly, you guys, I love doing this, and I think Joann loves. I'm speaking for you.
Yeah,
we have fun doing this. But if you ever have suggestions on something that we could do, maybe that would be more helpful to you, or something, hey, constructive criticism, I can take it. So communicate with us.
Yeah, let us know.
Let us know, because we're here doing this primarily to interact with you guys.
And entertain you.
Entertain you. Char says you guys are amazing. Pamela says it was fun. I love it. Now that's what we end on. All right. Have an awesome day, guys.
Bye.